AM 939 Pearl Street. That's at Nara.
This is KGNU FM 88.5 Boulder, KGNU 1390 Denver. Stay tuned for Metro.
Support comes from Harlequin's Gardens Nursery, presenting their holiday gift market, featuring local artisan creations, houseplants, and products for sustainable living. Details at harlequinsgardens.com.
Real stories, real people, real purpose.
Welcome, and thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Ruby Jones, and for the next 30 minutes, we'll highlight the voices, issues, and stories shaping Colorado's Front Range. So sit back, relax, and join the exchange. Front Range Exchange is an extension of multimedia content published by Empower Media Exchange, exclusive to the Metro show on KGNU Community Radio. Our goal is to share stories we feature on platforms like the digital news website Front Range Focus and the Exchange podcast. Each week, we bring you community voices, arts and culture, local news, and narratives that highlight community connection, education, authenticity, and inspiration. We're building a better tomorrow, one story at a time. Today, we have a very full show featuring a range of stories that are all about community, culture, and connection. And since it's almost Thanksgiving, we're also going to talk about gratitude and what it means to be thankful during a time that's been really challenging for many people throughout Colorado and across the Front Range. We'll talk about recent events celebrating arts and culture and hear from some really cool people. And we'll discuss an exciting opportunity to engage with the stories that shape our communities. Let's get to it. The last month was a big month for arts, culture, and entertainment. A major Broadway production landed in Denver and amazed audiences for nearly a month. A star-studded film festival took the city by storm, and Denver Arts Week hosted art walks, free museum nights, and events showcasing the city's arts and culture scene. One of my favorite events was the Broadway touring production of Disney's The Lion King. It was fun for all ages, and it offered themes of love, loss, and redemption. For anyone who's unfamiliar with the storyline, a young lion cub named Simba goes through a journey of transformation after the unexpected loss of his father, Mufasa. Eventually, he finds the strength to confront his past and assumes his place on the throne. The entire cast of The Lion King was phenomenal, but I had a chance to speak with the star of the show, Gilbert Donnelly, who played Simba. I absolutely loved the story he shared about his own personal journey as an actor. Here's a clip from my interview with Gilbert, who talks about the meaning behind the Disney magic and the importance of resilience in the entertainment industry.
It really is about legacy, love, loss, finding oneself. The character Simba really goes on this journey to find out who he is and take his rightful place at the end of the show. So it's really a coming of age story in a way, but it's so powerful and electric, and the audiences go crazy night after night. The music is so heightened that you're just overwhelmed with emotion because it's just an incredible, incredible story.
I think it's incredible that you got an opportunity to understudy this role on Broadway. And so now you've stepped into this starring lead role. You're leading the North American tour. How does that feel? What is it like to go from understudying to being the star of the show and really making the role your own?
It's such an incredible opportunity. I was very, very honored to understudy on Broadway for 2 years. And I always approached the role anytime I got the opportunity to go on as if it was mine because I knew that at some point I did want that, you know what I mean? And so to have that opportunity now, I still day after day I'm like, is this really happening? But it feels wonderful, and this creative team has been really supportive, and the cast is great. So it feels nice to be able to be here with such a supportive group of people and telling this amazing story. For me, really a dream, literal dream come true. I've been with the story ever since I've seen it, the animated film as a young kid, and now to actually be Simba, I'm like, my mind is blown.
Yeah, I bet. We talked about, how long it's taken for me to actually see this production, but my kids are also super fans of The Lion King. And this morning they woke up and the first thing they said to me is, "Are you meeting with Simba?" So I can just imagine, literally, they are you meeting with Simba? Are you talking to Simba? And I can just imagine that young people, old people, and everyone in between is just ready to see this production.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a show for all ages, and I think that's why it's lasted so long, because any age can come and get something out of it. And then I think as you grow, you want to bring your kids or your nieces. And then as they grow, they want to bring their kids and their nieces. And the story is just so timeless and the artistry is so impeccable that it's like it doesn't get old.
Now, you talked about some of the themes that we'll see in the production. You talked about loss, love, finding oneself. I know that I can relate to that. So have you been through anything that just really helps you step into this role and characterize that so that you're coming to the stage and showing up in a way that's inspirational to the audience so we can kind of understand how to work through that on a human level?
You know what I think about? I just think about my journey as an actor and being able to work for many years, auditioning all the time, auditioning, not getting things, getting close to getting things, and then finally when you do book a job, and so it makes me feel like, specifically with this show, I've auditioned a bunch of times before I even got to Broadway. And so being there, I was like, okay, finally I made it, And so I think I carry that with me in this role. There's a moment when Rafiki tells Simba at the end of the show, "It is time." And that line hits me every night because I'm like, whoa, I'm really here. And it brings tears to my eyes, to finally reach a moment, a dream in your life. And I think that's what audiences will see when they see me embody this role as someone living their dream.
The Denver Film Festival brought an all-star lineup this year, including appearances by Lucy Liu, Delroy Lindo, and Niecy Nash Betts. The 10-day festival highlighted Colorado's growing influence as a creative hub, with documentaries, short films, feature films, and a Colorado Spotlight program featuring projects from homegrown filmmakers. After days of powerful storytelling, the festival ended with a closing night celebration and a special premiere of the documentary titled Elway, featuring none other than the former Denver Broncos quarterback and NFL Hall of Famer John Elway. I had a chance to speak with the film's director, Ken Rogers, who is the VP and executive producer at NFL Films, and he shared his reasons for capturing the story of the football legend. In your opinion, what is the most remarkable thing about John Elway?
The most remarkable thing about John Elway is what he represents in today's world. I think it's kind of forgotten. It's an instant gratification society today. We want to become famous right away. We want to become rich right away. We want to become popular and great at our jobs right away. He talks about in the film the hard road, and he sort of represents this kind of ideal of the Western cowboy frontiersman that fits so well here in Denver, in that he embraced the hard road, the hard way to get there. We talk about his 2 Super Bowls, but they didn't happen to the very end of his career. And it's sort of fitting that it took that long, because his life is sort of a lesson of embracing the toughness that life brings us all, not looking for instant gratification. And eventually you'll find what you're looking for in yourself, not so much validation from others, but if you put in the work and you put in the path of the hard way, you get rewarded. And I think in today's world, that's a little forgotten.
You've said that the Hall of Fame exists for people that you couldn't imagine the game without them or the team without them. And I know here in Denver, of course, we can't imagine the Denver Broncos without John Elway and his influence. But when it comes to his day-to-day life and you're being able to show us kind of those behind-the-scenes look at who he is as a person, what do you want audiences to walk away feeling after they see this film?
I want people to see the man, not the mythic figure. John's career ended just before social media, the rise of the internet, access shows like Hard Knocks and Follow Docs and podcasts and everything was sort of mythic. He sort of represents the last mythic figure in NFL history. He wasn't mysterious, it's just he was larger than life. And there's this great moment in the film where the song Big Bad John plays and he's towering above the camera and you can sense he is a mythic figure. These days, myths are sort of, they don't exist as much. So we wanted to show the man behind the myth. And it ends up that his football story is paired with a family story that not a lot of people know, both with his father, his siblings, and his children, and now grandchildren. So the film begins and ends as a sort of family story. And I don't think that's something that a lot of people saw during his career, is that other side of him, because he was larger than life.
Elway will premiere on Netflix soon, and so will my full interview with Ken. So be sure to subscribe to The Exchange podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/@jointheexchange, or you can just search Join the Exchange. If you're in Denver and you're a music lover, Dazzle is the place to be. The venue hosts internationally acclaimed talent and local musicians and provides a stage for artistic expression, along with great food and an inviting atmosphere. I was so honored to speak with the renowned pianist and composer, Charu Suri, right after she was nominated for not one, but 2 Grammy Awards. Charu was the first Indian-born jazz artist to perform at Carnegie Hall. She's known for her unique blend of jazz, classical piano, and traditional Indian ragas. And her album, Cheyenne, is up for one of music's greatest honors. During our conversation, I asked Charu about the inspiration behind one of my favorite jazz albums, Rags to Ragas, and learned that a trip to the Big Easy was the starting point for her journey in jazz. Tell me about your projects that have been nominated for Grammys, 2 Grammys.
Yeah, so I had my own album called Cheyenne, which is a Sanskrit word for deep sleep or rest, nominated in the contemporary instrumental album jazz category. And so that's the first time for me as a nominee of my own work. And I'm also producer on the global music album Sounds of Kumbha that got nominated. So we have the possibilities of actually bringing home 2 awards come February. And I'm also on a children's album called Her Story by Flor Bromley that got nominated. I'm playing the piano and I composed a track for that.
That's so cool. Congratulations.
So much. Big day.
Now, you're known as a musical prodigy. You started playing piano at a very young age. You won an international piano competition when you were only 15 years old. But when you hear the word prodigy, what does that mean to you?
Someone who's just very advanced in skill level, expectations. So someone who just is able to just do something really extraordinary versus the normal expected timeline.
Thinking back to those earliest experiences that you have playing piano, what do you remember about the practice that it took to build the career that you have today?
Countless. I have a music academy where I teach piano to kids too, and many of my students look at me and say, wow, God, I wish I could play that effortlessly. And I'm like, you don't know how many thousands of hours that have gone behind this one phrase that looks so effortless, right? Like it's like seeing an ice skater at the Olympics and we're like, oh my God, so effortless. When I was a child, when I was about 7, 8 years old, I would actually, without any prompting, practice 6 to 7 hours a day. And that actually increased when I became a little older into 9, 10. I would go as much as 7 to 8 hours a day if I could.
One of my favorite projects of yours is Rags to Ragas.
It was so fun to write that album. Honestly, I still get the most compliments from that album.
I'm wondering, were you in New Orleans when you wrote that and when you put that together?
My jazz journey is not very old. It's just 5 years old. And it all started with a concert that I went to at Preservation Hall. I went there and my life changed. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just knew. I came back from that concert and went back to my hotel room. I said, this is it. I meant to be a jazz composer. And then another voice in my head was like, Charu, you're a classical pianist. You don't know anything about jazz. I'm like, shoot, I meant to be a jazz composer.
Charu performed at Dazzle on November 14th. And just a few days later, on November 19th, the Grammy Award-winning Puerto Rican flautist Nestor Torres took the stage. I was especially excited to speak with Nestor because my grandmother shares his last name. But I was blown away by the wonderful conversation I had with the Latin jazz maestro.
Very excited, and I love Denver. I called Colorado the other side of paradise. Being from the tropics, being from Puerto Rico and living in Miami, we have the palm trees and the beaches and that kind of paradise. But Colorado, with your mountains and your magnificent landscapes, you're definitely the other side of paradise. So I'm always happy to go back.
Your album, This Side of Paradise, you won a Grammy for that album. And, you've collaborated with some wonderful people, Gloria Estefan, Tito Puente, Dave Matthews.
Yes.
How did you begin playing the flute?
So my father was a musician. And my cousins and I were banging on the pots and pans ever since I can remember. So Santa Claus brought me a drum set when I was 5, and I played drums from the time I was 5 through 12. But then in Puerto Rico, there's something called Escuelas Libres de Música, which is free music schools. And at the time, you would go half of the day, either the morning or the afternoon, you would go to a regular school. And then the other part of the day, you would go to music school. My cousins, who also were playing, decided to go, and I wanted to join them. But I didn't see myself studying music like the drums, from an academic perspective. And so they went in the admissions form. So what instrument do you want to learn? I don't know, because trumpets, trombones, saxophones, I'm really used to all these instruments, being around them because of my father's work as a musician. And then I looked up at the blackboard and I saw the photograph or the picture of a flute. I said, oh, that's different. I'll try it. So at 12 years old, I decided to try the flute. And my father was not necessarily excited about it because at the time in Puerto Rico, there was no flute tradition to speak thereof, as opposed to in Cuba or in South America, or even India or Native American traditions. So he said, well, if you're going to do it, then you have to become the best at it. And yes, the rest is history. That's how he came to play the flute.
Now, what instrument did your father play?
He played the drums as well as the vibraphone, and he actually played the organ. We would go to the Presbyterian church, and he became very good friends with the organist, which was the son of the pastor. And it was remarkable because my father really learned to do something that not many jazz or non-classical organists do, which is to learn how to play the bass with both feet. You know how it is. I don't know. I don't mean to be too geeky, to explain that. But yeah, my father was a multi-instrumentalist. Interestingly enough, he never got to read music. He was always playing by ear. But he was by far my greatest influence. There's no doubt about it.
If you'd like to check out the lineup at Dazzle, visit dazzledenver.com. They'll be featuring Michael Wolf and Mike Clark tonight, and a number of amazing artists in the weeks and months ahead. Colorado's Front Range has really become a great place for entertainment of all kinds. There are great shows like the Arvada Center's presentation of Frozen, the Broadway musical, which is playing through January 4th, and Cleo Parker Robinson Dance's traditional presentation of Granny Dances to a Holiday Drum, playing from December 7th to December 21st. With all that said, Colorado is really home to great music. If you're listening to KGNU, you already know that, because the station's producers have great musical taste. But I got a chance to experience the Colorado Music Hall of Fame during a celebration of its success and efforts to keep improving the music scene. And man, as a music lover, I love it here. Okay, switching gears, let's talk about some big events tied to Colorado communities. One major development is that Latinas Give Denver and Latinos Impacting Our Future Together, or LIFT, completed a record-breaking giving cycle, with the giving circles using philanthropy to elevate identity, awareness, and culture. Also, the life sciences industry celebrated some major wins in November, with Colorado Bioscience Association awards recognizing companies and individuals doing great work to advance healthcare. 8th grade students looked ahead to their futures during Denver Public Schools' 8th grade career fair this month. Hosted by the Denver Broncos, 4,000 students flooded the United Club at Empower Field and met with nonprofits, businesses, and schools to learn about possible career paths. And now, the elephant and the donkey in the room. It's time to talk about elections and politics. The coordinated election of 2025 has come to an end, and it's clear that people are hoping for change. School board elections across the Front Range saw candidates who are supported by teachers' unions performing well. The president of the Colorado Education Association told Colorado Public Radio that these results are indicative of voters wanting to ensure that public schools stay public. In Aurora, several city council seats were filled with progressive candidates. So we'll see what type of changes are made in the state's most diverse city within the next several years. The vibrant Denver Bond was passed overwhelmingly, with voters showing support for infrastructure projects that will help create a safer and more vibrant future. State initiatives to prevent student hunger in schools were also passed by voters. So, in addition to Tabor dollars being used to fund school nutrition, high earners will see a slight tax increase to ensure that kids' bellies are full. It seems like Colorado residents are looking out for the greater good of their neighbors, which is inspiring. But on the other hand, national politics are a bit of a mess. The U.S. Congress just ended the longest government shutdown in the country's history, but not without a lot of damage having been done. During the 43-day stalemate, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP benefits, were delayed, prompting a massive response from state leaders here and around the country. Community support for food pantries skyrocketed, but people who rely on food assistance were heavily impacted. Flight traffic controllers had to work without pay, federal agencies were closed for an extended amount of time, and some are questioning whether another shutdown will occur at the start of the year, since lawmakers will have to revisit federal spending package negotiations by the time the current continuing resolution expires on January 30th. But thankfully, normalcy has been somewhat restored for now. This time of year is always really interesting. The days seem shorter because it gets dark earlier. And if you're anything like me, that creates this really strong desire to hibernate. I want to stay home where it's warm and cozy and bake or eat comfort food, but I find that this actually tends to be a really busy time of year. It seems like everyone is trying to fit so much into a very short amount of time between now and the end of December. And for some people, that's helpful because when the seasons change, some people experience mood changes, seasonal depression, so being out in public with friends or coworkers can be helpful. But there's a need to find balance. And for me, part of that balance is in reflection. And when I think back to all of the things that happened this year, I can't help but to be so thankful. This year marked a turning point in my professional journey, and it really was a year of transformation. I transitioned away from the publication I'd spent nearly a decade at, and I'm sure some of you remember my voice from another show on Metro that I produced for the last year. It brought about a lot of challenges that I'm still fighting through, but it was time. I needed to protect myself, I needed to protect my value, and I felt called to build something with deeper community roots, something that truly honored the stories and the people who make Colorado what it is. Something people can see themselves represented in, that's inclusive and creates feelings of belonging, because we all deserve to feel seen, heard, and safe. My vision became Empower Media Exchange, or EMX. At EMX, we're dedicated to strengthening the local news ecosystem through community-driven storytelling, media literacy, and platforms that reflect the diversity of our region. This year, we launched a digital news website called Front Range Focus that's at coloradofocus.com. I rebranded my podcast, so it's now named The Exchange, and produced a new slate of conversations featuring real people, real stories, and real purpose. And we also created a community information commons, launched youth storytelling programs, and deepened civic partnerships across the state. This journey hasn't always been easy, financially, emotionally, or even physically. But one of the things that has emerged from the challenges is a greater sense of gratitude. Just like silver is refined by sitting directly in the fire, some of the greatest challenges we face are catalysts for change. And with that change is the opportunity to develop gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons that shape us, for the people who stand with us, for the clarity that only struggle can reveal. Every obstacle this year forced me to reassess and recommit to the work I believe in. It reminded me that purpose isn't just proven when things are easy, but it's forged in moments that require courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what's right. And from those moments, a deeper appreciation grows for community, for creativity, and for the chance to keep building something meaningful. And that's why I'm so excited to share a project that we've been working on, City Story Denver. City Story Denver is a citywide storytelling initiative that celebrates the people, voices, and stories that shape Colorado's capital city. It's a project that creates connection between people who live, work, and play in Denver, because we've all encountered challenges this year, but we're still here. And as long as we're still here, we can find reasons to be thankful. If nothing else, we can be thankful for each other. And by sharing our stories, we can inspire others to be thankful too. So if you'd like to learn more about City Story Denver, please visit citystorydenver.com. We'll be hosting pop-up story corners in communities throughout the city. We'll also be partnering with local organizations to move this forward for all of 2026. We're super thankful to Denver Arts and Venues for supporting this vision, because we all love to hear a good story. But our goal is to show you that your story is important too. So thank you to everyone who has supported Empower Media Exchange. Your partnership is so meaningful, and I truly appreciate you sticking with me through this transition. I am committed to highlighting stories that create a greater sense of belonging, whether through sharing articles, having purposeful conversations, or helping guide the next generation of media professionals so that news is accurate, ethical, and inclusive. I really appreciate your continued support. I'm also wishing a very happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate, and encouraging you all to have an attitude of gratitude through this season. Extend a helping hand when you can, be good to others, and be good to yourselves. I'll catch you next time.
At Empower Media Exchange, we believe
stories shape communities, and everyone deserves access to credible local news.
Through media literacy, workforce development, and strategic narrative work,
we are building a future where Colorado's stories are created with the community,
not distant from it. Your support keeps this work alive.
As the year comes to a close, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Your gift nurtures young storytellers, strengthens community information access, and helps us preserve the stories that define who we are.
Give today at empowermediaexchange.org/donate. KGNU.org/donate.
Because every story matters.
And yours does too.